Let's now talk about some new rules in the NFL that have passed. My favorite one is NFL owners passed a bylaw that allows teams to have a third quarterback in uniform on game days. This, of course, on the heels of the NFC Championship game debacle. Brady, why is this best for all quarterbacks?
It's really the high tide that raises all boats, especially for quarterbacks. And the reason being is the rule never should have went away. I've never understood why they got rid of the rule. My only explanation is it was a small cost-cutting measure, even though you're only talking about 32 positions potentially. Usually a backup that would be in this third string role is one of a couple types of quarterbacks. It's either an older, experienced veteran that you're looking at as a kind of a mentor in that room. And the reason for that is because there's limitations on how much the quarterback coach can really be with the quarterbacks. And that's in the offseason, obviously, there's rules within the CBA against that. And then once you get into the season, it's primarily game planning and everything else. And the quarterback coach is not so much geared towards development. He's geared towards, trying to help the team win. And so he's more focused week to week on the schematic game planning that's involved in that. And so you need kind of have that veteran presence that's in the room. So if the quarterback who's starting isn't that, a lot of times you look at kind of that third string guy as a guy that can come in, potentially get you out of a game, get you out of a bind, but it is more of that just steady veteran presence. And that might come with a little higher cost. And maybe they'd say, hey, we'd rather use that on a different position. We'll stash, a developmental guy on the practice squad, give us an extra arm there. I know some of those rules were changed for the practice squad eligibility due to COVID. But I think through COVID, because that rule was taken out and subsequently 2 CBAs ago, they might have rethought that and said, this is actually something that we really need. We've got a shortened offseason. We don't get development much more with many positions anymore. And quarterback's such a unique position that is such a developmental spot where you need to have some sort of veteran presence in there at times. And then the last thing is you can get some guys who are just really raw, and they're guys that might need more time to develop. And so if they are on the younger side of things, because you've got an older veteran guy who is in that starting role, you've got a couple of guys, one that could be your backup that's ready, that knows the system, and one that might be young and might be extremely raw, but has a ton of upside, and you'd like to give them the chance to practice and be a part of everything, especially when you travel with the team and so forth. Those practice squad guys are usually not traveling with the team, not staying at the hotel, not a part of all the weekend festivities from time to time. And so all those sorts of things become a little bit more important. But so this is good for the league. I mean, when you think about it, the fact that the league got rid of it in the first place, they basically were like only hurting themselves the potential chance of not allowing more faces of these franchises to be developed or to have the sort of coaching and resources that they ultimately need. So I love this for the NFL. And I love the fact that you basically provided almost a guaranteed 32 more jobs in the NFL for all those third string quarterbacks that got wiped out.
Hey, Brady, if you were a coach in the NFL, I think you should be. I think you should be a head coach in the NFL. I think you could do it right now.
He's a girls soccer coach right now.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And I'm on the defensive side of the ball there. I'll be honest with you. I'm really liking it. All right. The physicality of it. I've got my girls literally just knocking people over, taking people off. I haven't gotten the slide tackling yet, but so far a lot of chicken winging, to make sure they hit the ball. And I tell them, if you kick for the ball and you miss and you haven't hit someone else,
get a shin.
That's okay.
Yep. Contact the shin and then you'll be fine. Yeah. Don't really do that, kids. But I'm curious, would you, if you were designated, so like let's say you're coaching the 49ers, right? And that's because this is the team that we're talking about, right? You have Trey Lance. I guess you would have I guess the Niners already have their guy in Sam Darnold as their third emergency quarterback, right?
Yep.
I guess I'm sort of wondering, would you want to have a quarterback who fits, because a lot of times we talk about, you have a backup that is similar to the starter, so you can slide right in and you don't have to change up a lot of things. I almost think like if you get to the playoffs, this is I guess the way I'm trying to ask the question. If you get to the playoffs, would it behoove, do you think we'll see some coaches say, all right, we're going to have this like totally not random offense, but like maybe like a read option style offense with our third emergency quarterback, that if we're forced to go to this guy in a playoff situation, break glass and pull out something that the defense isn't expecting at all. Do you think we'll see like maneuvering like that in terms of the playoffs and stuff and how coaches will approach it?
100%. I mean, if I was a team, right, and I've got a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, and they've done this essentially. I mean, Tyler Huntley has a similar skill set. He's not as dynamic, but when you look at the other quarterbacks they've brought in, Anthony Brown too, started for him last year. All those guys can run that system. Maybe not like Lamar, but similar in nature. So I think you might see some more teams that are more apt to want to do that. So that's part of it. I mean, and people should understand the mechanics of it too. The way it's written in there and how people define it. They're like, well, the first and second string quarterbacks, can't come back into the game in order to. That's actually not really how it works in essence. This actually happened my rookie year, or my first game that I was ever a part of the Browns. I was inactive at that point in time. Charlie Frye was our starter. Derek Anderson was the backup. And at one point in time, they activated me and Charlie Frye at that point in time ended up getting traded the following week. But I'd been activated because of that. And at that point in time, he just couldn't go back into the game. Usually it is due to injury where they'll deactivate that player. But usually when the first quarterback gets hurt and they determine that he can't go back in, that's the point at which they activate the third string quarterback. He's already sitting there in his uniform, but there's literally like a piece of paper. You deactivate the one player, you activate the other, and you like submit it into the officials. So I'll never forget Rip Shear, my quarterback coach, like grabbing that and doing it and kind of talking me through all that. And I was just like super excited because when you're sitting there in uniform and like you're not actually active, you're kind of like, all right, this feels kind of stupid. Now, when you've got the chance to go in and play, it feels a lot different when you're out there.